Yo, yo, yo. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 14, where I know I said in the last episode we're going to watch Blackburn versus Arsenal, but that kind of went out the roof. I guarantee you we are going to watch Blackburn versus Arsenal now. So another thing I wanted to go through is obviously in the Championship you saw like some games where I'd go through some tactical changes pre-match and I wouldn't really discuss them in too much detail. So I'm going to try and do that. No idea whether it'll work against Arsenal or not. Let's bear in mind as well that Arsenal are the defending champions of the Premier League somehow. So it's not going to be easy. It is not going to be easy. If we take a look at their transfer history, they actually made a lot of changes in a sense that they sold Giroud to Napoli. They sold Lucas also to Napoli. So it looks like Napoli are in the business of buying Arsenal striker rejects. Theo Walcott got loaned out to Olympique Lyon. Interesting. They signed Mauro Icardi from Inter Milan, which is quite interesting. A very different style of player from the strikers we're normally used to seeing at Arsenal, like your big strikers like your Lucases and your Girouds and your Welbecks. And they also signed Furtado. What the actual hell is with this guy's hair? Okay, pink hair. Nice. Obviously against Chelsea, we didn't really make that many changes. We mainly changed our mentality, and that's one of the fortunate things you get when you've got a decent built tactic. Because what a lot of people don't realise is when you change mentality, that has a knock-on effect on your other team instructions, and that also has a knock-on effect on player instructions as well. So I'll explain to you what I mean. So on attacking, with a slightly higher defensive line, you can roughly see, right, where our defensive line is up to. If I drop that down to defensive, do you see there how, like, our tempo on defensive, on higher, is nowhere near as high as when it was on attacking? Or slightly higher as a defensive line is a lot deeper than slightly higher on attacking. Or narrow width on defensive is a lot narrower than on attacking. Shorter passing on defensive is a lot short. You get the point now. You see what I mean? So that's something that can help a lot. So it works well because it saves you having to go through like every single team instruction, each player instruction, and making changes to them. So for example, in this case where I've got fullbacks on automatic, when I set the tactic to defensive, if I go defend now, the get further forward instruction no longer applies to that player. He no longer crosses from the byline and he aims to cross from deep. So that's why, like, when we come up against a team like Chelsea or, for example, Newcastle or Brentford or and some of the other games that I had off camera in the Championship, sometimes it is just a case of modifying mentality. And if there's something specific I have in mind, then I'll just modify the odd player instruction or the odd instruction or the odd team instruction here and there to make a small change. Like, for example, maybe exploiting down the right or left or getting stuck in a little bit more, and then making changes via opposition instructions if I want to try and target an opposition player. And a lot of people don't understand entirely what mentality does when you change it. And I think when you do start understanding what changing your mentality does and the knock-on effect changing your mentality has, it increases your understanding of what the hell mentality is, and it makes it easier for you to prepare for certain games because you can envision how your team are actually looking to play. And when you know how you want your team to play against a certain opposition, which we'll discuss what we want our team to do against Arsenal now in a second, it helps you choose the right mentality and make the right team instruction changes on top of that mentality change. So it just increases your overall understanding. So hopefully that made sense. So normally when it comes down to trying to scout your opposition, trying to decide exactly what you want to try and change and exploit, it helps to look at the scouting report. But what I find is that this early on in the season, when only 2 games have been played, it's early days, and it's very difficult to try and deduce anything. Now, we can try and deduce stuff based off of how Arsenal played last season when they won the league, but honestly, now that they've got Cavani up front, you can't really deduce anything 100% yet. So I'm not going to bother with looking at the scouting report. I'm going to rely on myself and the fact that I can kind of picture how Arsene Wenger's going to be looking to play and look at certain players and how the team's potentially going to set up in general and how we can look to exploit that. And another thing you could try and do is go onto their schedule and basically, I don't know if it allows you. You should be able to view highlights goals. This isn't something I'm going to do right now. It's something I'll do off camera. But by taking a look at how Arsenal have scored most of their goals this season, like they beat Hull 5-2, which shows that their defence ain't all that. But it also shows that we've got a lot of data there to try and gather how they're going to be looking to try and score goals from. Cavani getting a hat-trick, fair play to him. So that suggests they're probably going to play the crossing game. So yeah, that's something you can do. Just look at some of their previous games this early on, by using the scouting report, and just try and figure out how they're going to be looking to play. Once you figure out how you think they're going to be looking to play, obviously you can then tweak things, and obviously you'll have to tweak things as the game progresses as well, because I find that when in Football Manager, when you come up against better managers, they start to change things during games a lot more than lower league managers. Okie dokie, so I've just watched Arsenal's goals so far this season, and to be fair, nothing's really too surprising. Conceding leaky goals from crosses, we're set up to play a crossing game a lot of the time, so I'm not really too bothered about that. Most of their goals came from typical Arsenal style of play, low crosses, short, intricate passes. They're playing with a high line, trying to utilise the pace of Chamberlain and Sanchez, and Ozil doesn't really do much defensively, so that's something we can exploit as well. So just to try and explain the modifications that I am going to do. Cavani's quite a big striker, strong in the air, so we are going to be trying to set some specific opposition instructions onto him. Chamberlain and Sanchez have pace to burn, so the last thing we want to do is play against Arsenal with a high line, because our defence still ain't that fast, and they definitely can punish us. So we'll be looking to not play with an offside trap and drop our defensive line a notch. Now, we've got 2 in the middle of the park, they've got 3, which gives them that passing triangle. Fortunately for us, though, Ozil is a player who is a phenomenal player. But if we can cancel him out, because he's the player that links the front 3 with the midfield, then that's something we can exploit using specific opposition instructions. A lot of people that want to go with a 4-4-3-3 would get their defensive midfielder to man mark Ozil, but obviously we're going with the 4-4-2. They've gone with Silva and Cazorla. Well, they've not gone, but this is what they did in their last game, so potentially we could see something similar. Both Silva's okay, but you can see that Wenger's gone with a slightly more advanced playmaker in the midfield role, and hopefully he does go with Cazorla, simply because Cazorla's not that physical. He's 32 now, and I think if we can go in hard on him and try and cancel him out, as well as going in hard on Ozil, and playing a narrow game so they don't have much breathing space, nor space to play their small, quick, intricate 1-2 passing, then our 2 midfield won't really struggle too much. Right, normally don't do this, but I just want to follow up on what I was talking about earlier. So you can quickly see our opposition instructions there on the video. Again, Santi Cazorla, that weaker foot, showing some key players onto their weaker foot, tackling some players hard, keeping Ozil marked tightly. Yeah. Team instruction-wise, we're going to drop to defensive. This could potentially change because I do feel like to get more crosses into the box, our fullbacks are going to have to get involved a lot more, but we like to start things off on defensive. We're removing the offside trap. We're going to play with a normal defensive line. And really, they're the only changes we're going to do right now. And we will make changes throughout the game, depending on how things go. Alright, hello everyone, welcome to Ewood Park, Blackburn Rovers against Arsenal. I mentioned last season when we played Man United that we actually beat Man United in the Premier League this season. We got relegated. And we also beat Arsenal this season. We got relegated as well, I think it was. It was at Ewood Park as well. So, 13 minutes in, we've not looked too shabby. I'm going to switch to a counter mentality. That won't change too much from the defensive mentality that we started off with. All it'll do for me in this case is try and get the fullbacks involved a little bit more, which is important for me so that they can try and get more balls into the box, basically. But so far, so good. 30 minutes in, not really seen much. Arsenal have slowly fought their way back into the game, but, well, that was entertaining, wasn't it? But from our perspective, I would have taken 0-0 at half-time. Tell them I'm not happy with the performance. Claudio has lost confidence, so yeah, that's a sign that he's coming off for Akpan. Let's see what happens. We've kept Arsenal relatively quiet. They've gone with Cazorla in the middle of the park as Alexis picks the ball up. Adrien shoots from distance, but Cavani got a touch on it, which means it's offside. But I'm still not happy with how we've started this second half. And we've got to be careful before Arsenal genuinely do punish us. So, long ball forward towards Cavani. But that deep defensive line actually not really working too well. Both Adrien and Cazorla getting far too much time on the ball. But that's a good clearance from Augustinsson as Andre Gray finds Danny Graham. And we've got to try and keep the ball now. Referee trying his best to get in the way as Gouffran passes the ball towards Craig Conway, who gets tackled. And now Arsenal themselves are on the counter-attack. Great tackle from Charlie Mulgrew. Conway, don't lose the ball again. Oh, no! He had no passing option. What can Dumic do now to try and stop Cavani? Well, that was terrible from Cavani, but I'm going to attribute that down to the mentality. So what happened there, in my opinion, if it can give me my tactics back, is when we won the ball back, we ended up pushing so many players forward that Conway didn't have an extra passing option on him. So for that reason, I'm going to drop back to a defensive mentality, but stick our fullbacks on support. That way they might actually overlap a little bit more. And we'll leave things like that for now. Yeah, I don't really feel like we need to change anything. We're set up to play deep, aren't we? We're only going to be in trouble if Alexis can shoot, but it's a good save. So the question here now is, what can we do to try and change things? Let's see if we can get some information as to exactly what's going on. So we can immediately see that most of Arsenal's attacks have actually come down their left flank, i.e. through Sanchez. Looks like them perhaps trying to exploit Fabio, or maybe it is simply because Sanchez is there. Want to try and change things defensively. Daryl Lenihan is on a yellow card, so for that reason Letalic is going to come on. And up front wise as well, I'm tempted to stick Yaya Sanogo on, simply because Yaya Sanogo is obviously an ex-Arsenal player. So we can see if we can get some payback against Wenger for releasing him. But still a lot of football to be played. Demand more, but we've really kept him at bay pretty well. We've not played amazing ourselves. We've got a lot of players that are looking pretty nervous, but not that many highlights. They've had their chances. They scored a goal that was offside, but you know, the way we set up to stop them being able to pass the ball. We set up to... Sorry for that pause. I'm like trying to focus on a million things at once. We set up to try and stop Ozil finding room to play them killer passes, and I can't really complain. So again, we haven't played that well offensively, but I don't think we're really expecting to play that well offensively. So the only offensive change I probably would have made that game was to maybe switch Andre Gray to an advanced forward and try and see if we can take advantage of the space that Arsenal would leave behind their back four because of their high line. But 0-0, I'm not going to complain about that. We did what we came to do. So, well done, lads. Except this twat that's switching off. And I guess that's it. So that leaves us second on the same number of points as Arsenal. So if you'd offered me 0-0 before the game, I would have taken it. Were we fortunate? I don't really think so. So Arsenal had a lot of shots, right, but only 4 of them were on target. If we go into the analysis and select Arsenal and take a look at where most of their shots came from, I'd say at least 80% of their shots were just pots from outside the box, which for me shows frustration. So our position instructions obviously, did what we wanted them to do, and our team instructions stopped Cavani and Sanchez being as effective as we know they can be. And even better, we managed to get Cavani off injured. I don't want to go into games looking to injure players, but it just goes to show that tackling hard did its job. But that's going to be it for that episode. So I think the last 2 episodes have been, again, Arsenal missed chances. They really... Did they even have a clear-cut chance? If we go into... Right, so they had one clear-cut chance, and I think that clear-cut chance was probably the offside goal. I'm not entirely sure. Passes completed 78% as opposed to their 85%, so we kept the ball well. 70% tackles won, 69% tackles won. We tackled the ball better than them. We had a higher average rating than they did. So, again, they had 7 shots off target. So, I don't really think we played poorly whatsoever. Happy with that result. So, yeah, the past 2 episodes have been a little bit different. I don't know whether you guys kind of want the episodes to continue this way. I feel like they're less enthusiastic and more trying to focus on details. But if you guys think that suits where this save is going a lot more and you feel like you're learning a lot more from it, then I can stick with it. So this is completely up to you guys. So give us some feedback in the comments. It does mean that these videos are going to be longer as a result and kind of a little bit more boring in a way, but they're not really boring if you're learning from them. So hopefully you like the video. If you did, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Until next time, peace.